coming up this week on the Markcast. Well, here we are officially. Over 100 XFL and USFL players have signed NFL contracts leading into the season. And in the words of an infamous Toronto rap hip-hop superstar, they went 0 to 100 real quick. I don't dare try to sample that song and infuriate the YouTube copyright strike gods here this week, but you know what I'm talking about here. Drake, 0 to 100 XFL and USFL signings. We have Greg Parks of XFL Board joining the show. We have preseason grades for the players, who's most likely to wind up on NFL rosters, and more.
It's impressive, and it's a number that if you're XFL leadership, you can sort of hang your hat on. You can use to recruit the next batch of players who don't make NFL rosters this training camp, or who were tryout players at rookie minicamp in May and never signed, and they're looking for getting their foot back in the door. And the XFL can say, hey, look, we've got all of these players from 2023 that were signed. We've got all of these players who've received NFL tryouts. And, you know, if you want to get your name back in circulation, this is an avenue you might want to take.
And an early episode this week to make way for all 4 CFL game previews. We have Milt Stegall joining the show, longtime friend, CFL, Hall of Famer, Grey Cup champion, and now a part of the CFL podcasting circuit as well. What is going on here? Milt Stegall gives his thoughts on everything CFL Week 12.
Definitely good for them to get that first victory, but they had to make a major move within that organization, and unfortunately, it had to be Victor, and I wouldn't be surprised if something else happens later on in the year in off season, because changes have to be made when your team is playing like that.
And then Alexander Hollins from your America's CFL team, the BC Lions, joining the show, coming off a tough loss last week. How are they going to bounce back at home against Hamilton? Should be a good show. Like and subscribe. Hey guys, welcome to the Markcast. Reed here, back on a little bit of a regular schedule, pre-recorded, but Thursday, throwing everyone off. But these Thursday CFL games really throw a wrench in my plans. Should be back on a normal podcast schedule next week. I think we will have a really, really big guest, even bigger than Milt Stegall, longtime friend of the show, CFL Hall of Fame, CFL Hall of Famer, Grey Cup champion, all of that stuff with the Blue Bombers. But should be a good show next week. This week as well, Greg Parks joining us. We are running down everything from the XFL and USFL signings to the NFL. Officially 100 plus players this week. Very excited to see that. We've had even like Brian Hill, friends of the show, all the way back in the NFL Alumni Academy, making way onto rosters. Really excited to talk with Greg about that. Greg's been great, grading the players, talking about their performances, who's most likely to stick here once roster cuts happen next week. So we'll be getting Greg's thoughts on everything involved with that. And then, like I said, Milt Stegall joining us. Lots of talking, lots of fun with Milt. He's always a blast here, getting his extended thoughts. Why is Milt joining this is our Milt now is a CFL podcaster. Who would have thought? But really excited to talk with Milt about all of that. And then, like I said, Alexander Hollins joining from America's CFL team, the BC Lions. Good show this week. Like I said, back getting a little bit more pre-recorded. Relied heavily on the live shows here during my busy wedding schedule. That is winding down, so we should be getting back to more of the traditional Friday slate. I don't think the CFL does many Thursday games here in the fall with football and everything, so should be back to normal here pretty soon with the Fridays, if not next week entirely here through the end of the NFL season. But like I said, big show next week. I think just emailing back and forth, corresponding, but should have a great interview in the can for that. And then we will see what other shenanigans we can get into. I know the cut down for the NFL next week is the 29th. So we will be able to kind of do a full deep dive into who made the rosters here with the XFL and the USFL through waivers and all of that. So hoping Pat Ruffino, if you're listening, or maybe Evan, or we could tag team that, but we'll figure it out, whoever wants to do that. But we'll work on that for next week. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Get us up to 3,500 subscribers. Like and subscribe. Thanks so much. Well, we're back here, dog days of summer, talking XFL offseason. First off, pour one out for Terry Funk. Sorry to hear that. We have Greg Parks here. I saw you were posting about that today as well, so that's no good.
Yeah, I mean, 79 years old, man. that's a long life for a guy who's had as many bumps and has wrestled the kind of matches that he's wrestled throughout his career for as long as he did. I mean, I think he wrestled into his 60s. Yeah. And so 79 that's a long time for a guy who's put his body through what he's put it through. And I mean, you just look at all the different eras that he's wrestled in, all the different places he's wrestled, all the people he's wrestled, all the styles he's wrestled. He could hang with Ric Flair for 60 minutes, and he could wrestle in ECW, your garbage matches and stuff like that. So what a talent he was. Just a shame passing away today at 79.
Yeah, well, I saw that. It's really, it's one of those like, oh yeah, I guess he's still, because some of these guys get up and Ric Flair and all that stuff, but not enough, too much wrestling today. We're talking XFL combined now officially this week. I think it's 101 now by the time, because I get sent the thing and then I post it from like the agent or whatever. And then the XFL posted. I'm like, okay, was that okay? Yeah, that's the same. But I think we have 101 now combined between the XFL and the USFL here. So of course, Drake, 0 to 100. Thoughts on that? I mean, I think that's a pretty testament high number. I mean, I'm pretty surprised.
It's a good number. I can't say that I went into this saying, okay, if they get 50 players signed, that's a good number. And if they go above that, that's great. If they get below it, that's failure, or whatever you want to say. I never really had a number in mind. I didn't really know what to expect. The last time we had something like this, in 2020 with the XFL, it was during the pandemic. So you didn't have a lot of players going in for tryouts the way that you do with players now. The USFL had a lot of guys signed last year, but now it's the USFL and XFL, and we've just not had two leagues of this level basically competing to get their guys signed into the NFL. So I really didn't have any kind of set expectations for how many players would get signed to the NFL. I think the number they're at for the XFL, which is I think 62 or 63 at this point. See, they started counting differently. If you notice in their press releases, they're counting the number of contracts signed now. So the guys who sign and get released and then sign again, Jacques Patrick, Tomasi Lalile, they count twice. So they're no longer counting the number of players signed. So you got to kind of count that yourself. So that's been a little difficult, but it's over 60, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, you're right. It's 63 with 66 contracts. We've had three double ups.
Okay, so that seems like a good number. And I've been keeping track of posting every once in a while on social media, the percentage of players who finish the season on active rosters who are being signed. I think we're close to, we're over 20% of that. The number of players who've received tryouts, we're well over 100 of those players. And I think we're well over 25%, probably closer to 30% of players in the league who have received tryouts. So it's impressive. And it's a number that if you're XFL leadership, you can sort of hang your hat on. You can use to recruit the next batch of players who don't make NFL rosters this training camp, or who were tryout players at rookie minicamp in May and never signed, and they're looking for getting their foot back in the door. And the XFL can say, hey, look, we've got all of these players from 2023 that were signed. We've got all of these players who've received NFL tryouts. And, if you want to get your name back in circulation, this is an avenue you might want to take.
Yeah, because it's getting to the point where if for each player is different, but where you have at least a quarter more of the players at least getting looks, tryouts, and then bending, like funneling down, I guess, into signings. I could wallow on a practice squad for a year, and you're making significantly more money than you're going to be making the XFL. But if you want to play with the XFL or the USFL, like, hey, let me go do 8-10 weeks, I'll get a look. Like, I think having the USFL gone through 2 seasons now, the XFL, like it's becoming that, like, we are a viable thing that I think a lot of agents should start kind of veering their players into.
Sure. And I think that's really probably what the hesitation was at first. Agents and players wanted to know, is this viable? Is this going to sustain itself? I don't want to get caught halfway through a season like has happened before and all of a sudden the league shuts down and I'm left kind of holding the bag. So I think agents and players wanted to see that this model is sustainable, and they want to see results. They want to see how many players are getting NFL opportunities. And once those boxes are checked, those were the two main, I think, holdups. So without those there, I do wonder if you're going to see an even higher quality of player enter into the XFL and USFL this year.
So it's what did we say, 63 and 38 63 and 38 for the USFL. So I had, I always have, like, when I post, well, how many does the USFL have, or how many, because that's like another one of these, like, stick measuring contests or whatever. But I think it was 51 when the NFL kicked off last year. Obviously they signed more guys into the season. Gavante Turpin, obviously being the one for the Cowboys and did the All-Pro. There was a couple injuries that stopped a couple of the other players from kind of making it on. How, in terms of, and this is just whatever, like, what would you consider a successful number retained into the season from the XFL, USFL combined here, if we have 100 plus?
Well, I'll count practice squads for that, because I think the number of players who are going to make an active roster out of training camp is going to disappoint people, quite frankly. I've been tracking them on XFL board the first 2 weeks of the preseason. I've been listing some of the notable performances, good and bad, of XFL players from 2023. And I've been keeping tabs on The Athletic and on local papers of what the beat writers are saying. They're putting out projected 53-man rosters every week, so I'm kind of scouring those. And unfortunately, it does not look like very many XFL or even USFL players are going to make initial 53-man rosters. I think you're going to have quite a few that have the potential to make practice squads. Practice squads are 16 per team now. So they're going to keep a lot of the players they cut at cutdown day. And don't forget, a lot of the players who are cut are going to be subject to waivers. So another team could pounce on them if they like what they saw in the preseason. So they may not make the team that they're on right now, but they could be claimed by another team and make their 53-man roster. So there's a lot of roster fluidity still to come. But out of that 100, I would say if you're looking at, I would say 30 to 40 practice squad players out of that 100, I think is reasonable. And then, of course, that number changes throughout the year as injuries hit active rosters and players are called up from practice squads, and players, practice squads churn every week. So you'll have that number increase throughout the year. And the other thing about being on the practice squad, at one time, being on the practice squad meant, were kind of wallowing there until you either got released or you got signed to the active roster. And that didn't happen all that much for some players. The rule since 2020 has been that each week a team can call up 2 players from the practice squad and not have them count against the 53-man roster. So being on the practice squad today is a lot more valuable than it once was. You have a lot higher probability of playing NFL regular season games. So even if someone signs to the practice squad, it's not just like kind of stash them there and forget about them. If you're an XFL fan or a USFL fan following them, you got to look every week because your guy could get called up to play in that week's game.
I have up here, and this is like, I've been very busy with CFL and weddings this year. I'm sure this has existed for a while. I saw in one of their press releases, I think it was last week, that they had this XFL.com/XFL-2-NFL, which to me is phenomenal here. Listed in order of all the players, the teams, the announcements, positions, kind of all that stuff. I was looking, USFL doesn't have that. I know Stefan over at Newsroom kind of has his little one that's a little more herky-jerky, but at least is worthwhile if you're wanting to kind of track that. I wish it had it by date, but you can sort by position and all of that. So good for Stefan and all of that, because before I just kind of assumed like, oh, Pat Ruffino or someone's like keeping tabs on all this stuff, all these numbers. But so check that out, because like anytime I post, I get people questioning like, oh, is like Ja'Cour Pearson signed yet? And you're like, well, he hasn't. That's weird. I think it's weird that he hasn't got signed. He's been very vocal about that online. But when there is... when we look at the numbers, this is where I get into the problem of solely building the XFL around like this is our dream is to get players in. This is all that matters. Is you're probably not going to get that many to actually stick. And so when your entire league is built around that, that is where I have a little bit of umbrage with that. Any thoughts on that?
I get why they go that direction, because they probably think, that's not for us. necessarily. It is in one way because it's basically telling us, hey, this is the kind of level of player that we have. This is the kind of level of play that we can produce in this league. We're worth watching, because the one thing that would turn a lot of people off of these secondary leagues is they consider it minor league or football that's not very good. But if you're the XFL and you can point to say, hey, we're good enough that the NFL signed 60 some of our players, that's a pretty good testament as to what our quality of play was. So that's kind of for the fans, I think. And I don't think they spell it out that way, but that's kind of my impression of it. But it's also for, as we talked about, the players and agents. If you can plaster this all over your social media, a player gets cut from the NFL and he doesn't know what to do, and he's scrolling through social media and he's seeing these posts by the XFL that guys are constantly getting signed. I mean, that's going to plant a seed in his head that, oh, maybe I should consider this. I think there's that aspect to it as well. And ownership has been good about saying, look, we want guys to succeed. We want guys to move on to the NFL. I think there's some head coaches, Anthony Becht might have been one, who said, my goal is to have my roster turn over completely every year. Like, I want everybody to go to the NFL. But the other thing they've kind of couched that in is, but if you don't make it to the NFL, we provide you a way to make money and make a living playing football, even if it is not at the highest level. So there is that aspect of it too.
It's crazy to me. It would be nice to see these leagues kind of evolve into, like we were having a conversation today, even where we have Trey Lance, right? And they were announced he's going to be the third string, and he's upset, and Sam Darnold beat him out. Like, what do you do if you're Trey Lance? Because I don't know if there's a lot of teams lining up right now. The guy, I think he had 4 starts for the 49ers last year. Like, I would like to envision a world where, like, Trey Lance, and we were talking about in the chat, like, go to the XFL for a year. Go play 10, 12 games, show what you have. And I bet, when we had Brock Heward on last year when it was with the USFL, he was saying the same thing, where he said, if Colin Kaepernick, if he really thought he could play, come do, a season of the USFL, show everybody and transition that over. Do not view it as a step down, but to view it as like, here's a way where I could actually get reps, as opposed to just kind of being that unknown, if that makes sense.
And Trey Lance is a unique situation where he just does not have a lot of game tape. He did not start much in college. He has not really had a sustained opportunity in the NFL due to injuries and other situations, with San Francisco having, a bevy of quarterbacks that they've been able to choose from, a good problem to have in some ways. But he just hasn't been able to show that he can put that 10 to 12 game stretch together to show other teams that he's worth investing in. Now, the XFL would be a bit of a gamble, because we've seen that performing well in the XFL doesn't guarantee you an NFL roster spot. I mean, you talk about Ja'Cory Pearson, leading XFL receiver, Jordan Williams, leading tackler in the XFL, hasn't signed. AJ McCarron, that's probably his own choice, but one of the top quarterbacks in the league, hasn't signed. Jordan Tam, the XFL Offensive Player of the Year, just signed, 2 games into the NFL preseason. Peter Talmoapeno, the Defensive Player of the Year, signed after the first preseason game. So these guys are getting into camp late, which is putting them behind the 8 ball to make the team, but they performed out of their minds in the XFL. So I do understand the hesitancy from that point of view, that playing in the XFL and playing really well doesn't itself guarantee you a shot in the NFL.
Are you surprised, and we were having this conversation as well, that with the XFL being so much earlier, and there's been so much about the timeline, and the USFL says it's the best because our players can go right into camp, but it's too late because it's already July. And we were even seeing people with the Defenders saying, God, if they weren't in the championship game, they'd already have guys going in. A lot of these signings, even just the last 2 weeks, have still been a lot of XFL guys, even with USFL guys available. Are you surprised with the numbers and how they've kind of panned out in that way?
Again, I guess I didn't really have expectations. I did think the XFL would have more players, just because I think, looking at the rosters, and again, I don't watch the USFL, so I can only go by the players that I see as being part of the league. It does seem like the XFL has a slightly higher caliber of player in it, so I guess it doesn't surprise me that they have more. But again, like you mentioned, that lead up to training camp, that couple months head start that they got. I mean, they were able to put dozens of players in rookie minicamps for these NFL teams. And even if they were not signed right after rookie minicamp, and many of them were, but many of them, the teams that are looking for replacements now have those guys on file that were in their rookie minicamp, those XFL players, and those are the players now getting signed to their roster even in late August. So it's an advantage certainly for the XFL to have those players in those rookie minicamps at a time when the USFL is having their season still going on, not only to get signed after rookie minicamp, but to just be in front of those coaches and those scouts so that later on in the summer or even in the fall, if they're looking for a player at that position, they're going to remember you from rookie minicamp. Let's bring him in. He's got some familiarity. We've got some familiarity with him. And sometimes that's how guys get signed. It's just that familiarity.
Are you surprised some of the guys that we haven't seen signed, like Pearson? I commented earlier. I mean, he's just anytime anyone gets signed, he's tweeting, like. I mean, are you surprised some of these guys that we would expect would be slam dunks? I mean, Tiamu finally did. That was kind of like the I guess what to me one of the overhanging ones. Were you surprised some of the ones that haven't been signed?
With Teamu, I wasn't, because I think he's a pretty known quantity at this point. He's a guy who's been for a couple years now. He's like one of the last arms signed in camp for the last preseason game, and then he gets cut. He's not new to this, right? He's been through this cycle before. So, he's done it in the XFL in 2020. He did it in the USFL in 2022. He did it in the XFL in 2023. I really don't think there's much he has to. There's not much more he can show. And if NFL teams aren't interested in him at this point, they just might not be interested in him. That's the sad, cold, hard truth of the NFL. Pearson, his biggest drawback is his size. And no matter what numbers you put up in the XFL, it's not going to grow you 4 or 5 inches. And so measurables are still a big part of the NFL. You hear about this with Bryce Young when he went number 1 overall. Oh, he doesn't meet the height requirement. And so much of the pre-draft discussion was about his size. And so the NFL is still skittish about taking a chance on guys, even bottom of the roster guys, who don't meet those size requirements. I don't think anyone has had more workouts than Jacour Pearson. I think he's up to 7 workouts that he's had with NFL teams. So he's getting these opportunities. His size or something he's not doing in these workouts is not translating for these teams. So I did think that he was going to finally get signed at some point. And I think he is, to me, the biggest surprise of who hasn't been signed yet.
Yeah, I mean, that, like you said, that to me is one of the, I hope and pray and want all these players. It's just hard. And it's, you get caught up in, like we said, kind of the marketing of the leagues, and this is what we want. It's a league of opportunity, but it's not, the window of opportunity is not not equal for you or me or anybody else.
And the XFL could say, look, we're giving you the opportunity.
Yeah.
Everything else is up to you. That mini camp tryout, that signing late in camp, that's all on you now. We've given you the platform. Now you have to take the next step. So, that's kind of what they can say to shield themselves from whatever criticism comes their way of not enough players making active rosters or whatever like that.
So I have your article here. I pulled it up before when you were mentioning it off the top. I wanted to do this last week, preseason 1, and then these CFL Thursday games have really thrown me for a loop when trying to get these episodes out. Who has stood out to you this week or kind of in the NFL preseason in general? We can kind of open it up to that.
I think the biggest performance came last week, which was Nico Lelos, who had 3 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss. I think he had a knockdown. That was late in the game, 4th quarter, so he's going against guys who aren't going to make the team for the other team, so you kind of have to keep that in mind as well. But as far as statistical performance, I think that was probably the best. You had Josh Johnson, who did not have a great first game for Baltimore. He had a really nice game on Monday night against Washington. And, Baltimore, sadly, their 24-game preseason win streak was snapped. So, that's
got my Commander's hat on here. If you can't see it, there
we go.
That was my Super Bowl on Monday.
So, Ben DiNucci had a good first game. I don't think he had as good of a second game. The specialists are a little behind. Parker Romo seems like he's behind in Detroit. Dan Whelan, punter for the Defenders, seems like he's behind Pat O'Donnell in Green Bay. Other than that, there's been some guys who've gotten some sniffs with first and second teams in preseason action. Kobe Smith with the Giants, who played for the Brahmas, has played a ton of snaps. He's gotten some second team, first team work in the preseason. You look at a guy like Willie Taylor. He didn't play the first game for the Jaguars, but he played late in the first quarter with some second stringers on Jacksonville's defense. So I don't think that's apropos of anything. I think that's more of, mixing things up and mixing packages up, the coaches, and just giving guys an opportunity and seeing what they look like, playing with guys who are going to make the team, even if they don't. But there haven't been a ton of standout performances. Abram Smith has looked okay at times in Minnesota. Bruce Hector had a really nice first week of the preseason with the Jets, caused some interior pressure on the defensive line. But, no one who I can point to and say, this guy has made the team because of his work in the preseason. I just haven't seen that yet.
Well, we even had, with all of our CFL stuff, we have the Nathan Rourke, and they track that like, the Messiah is walking down the street, and like.
Let me tell you, as a Jaguars fan, that's Jaguars fans' reaction too. If you go to the Jaguars website, there's a mailbag every day that the editor of Jaguars.com does, and the last week has been 3 or 4 questions every day about, is Nathan Rourke going to make the team? Why isn't he second string? Because Doug Peterson came out after their game this weekend and said, no, there's no competition for second string. It's going to be C.J. Beathard. So it's either going to be Nathan Rourke getting cut and probably try to get signed to the practice squad, or he makes the team as a third string. But there's been a lot of Jaguars fans who've just fallen in love with Nathan Rourke.
Well, I know, but that's the thing is you can have, you're saying there hasn't been a ton of standout performances. You could even have a standout performance like Nathan Rourke. And yeah, I mean, he's had, 2 games back to back, and Patrick Mahomes is quote tweeting, and look at this. And, because people have said like, if Mahomes does this, the internet dies, because or Twitter breaks and here, but you do all of that and then he still doesn't have a spot. I mean, it's disconcerting for me as someone that spends an inordinate amount of time kind of talking about all this stuff.
Yes, as someone who spent an inordinate amount of my last 2 weeks watching preseason games from start to finish, me too. But, preseason game is just a small slice. We don't see what goes on in the meeting rooms. We don't see what goes on the whiteboard when, you have to answer questions from a coach in a meeting. We don't see what goes on in those joint practices that happen, which coaches are now saying are more important for evaluation purposes than the preseason games themselves. We don't see what goes on day to day at practice. What are their habits like? What are their study habits? What are their practice habits like? How are they performing in practice? So the preseason games are just such a small slice of the overall evaluative picture that coaches take into account when they make these cuts. So it is hard to make any broad-based sweeping generalizations about the chances a player has when you are just sitting down and watching them in a preseason game. But, if they are doing well in meeting rooms, if they are doing well in practices, if they are doing well in those joint practices, you hope they pop in the preseason games too, because that would just kind of really complete things and cement their roster status.
Yeah, I think last year was it Strevler kind of got crazy during the preseason. I mean, he was a CFL guy too, kind of that CFL or the preseason darling. I think Nathan Rourke, like we said, kind of has that. But I don't know, are you surprised there hasn't been any standouts this year? I mean, it I don't know. I wish that there would be something that we'd have a little bit more like juice to write about right now.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that there'd be more players with more buzz in training camp than there is now. You just don't hear. Hakeem Butler had it a little bit in OTAs, and then he came into training camp and was dropping passes and was not meeting the expectations, and he ended up getting injured and just waived injured. So but got put on IR for Pittsburgh. He'll probably get released with an injury settlement soon and be a free agent. I think, that was probably the closest I would say to someone who had some really positive momentum in OTAs in the spring, but he just wasn't able to carry it over into training camp and probably was on the outside looking in for a roster spot had he stayed healthy.
Do you blame, just NFL politics here? I mean, it feels, I don't want this to be like a depressing conversation here about the state of this. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
it's the reality of it. I mean, that's, we get on the high when the season happens and when all these players are getting signed, and that is a good thing, and we should celebrate that. But we also have to understand that there's a reality component that goes with it, that it's very difficult to break into the NFL. They have, I've heard personnel men say, really, there's only about 3 roster spots per team that are really up for grabs in the preseason. And when you think about that and think about the 90-man rosters, it's like, man, 3 spots and all these guys are getting signed. So the reality is there just are not a lot of real spots available when you carry over so much of your roster from the previous season, when you sign a bunch of free agents, you have draft picks, you had college free agents, and now you have this other avenue, the USFL and XFL, that players are coming in. You can't fit them all in. And so cut down day is a sad day across the NFL for players. Coaches don't enjoy that process. Fans don't like seeing players they saw shine in the preseason get cut, and certainly XFL and USFL fans are not going to like seeing all these players cut. But that's the reality of the business.
Especially now, next week, kind of everything combined. It used to be kind of the scale down process, right? A couple different cut downs. Everything's going on the 29th. It's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, it's going to be not a fun day, I don't imagine.
No, it's not. But again, you're going to have the next day is always the most fascinating for me, because that's when waiver claims get put in, and you get to see what teams want players from other teams that were cut. And then, the domino effect from that is, if you're claiming 3 players on waivers, you have to cut 3 players who initially made your 53-man roster. So imagine that conversation. Player thinks he made the roster and is on the team for the first week, and all of a sudden the team claims a player 2-3 and they got to cut more. So I think the saving grace is going to be the practice squad. I think we're going to see a lot of players get signed to the practice squad, and they're really one snap away from making an active roster. So that's the saving grace, I think, of the cut down day bloodbath, as you so eloquently put it.
So anyone, like you said, I'm kind of glancing through your notes here while we talk, special teams, a lot of, I think that's always kind of the place to look at here with these alt football guys. Any realistic people that you would at least, had $20 to bet on that you would think you would be seeing here next week actually make the roster?
I think Ben DiNucci has a real shot to be Denver's 3rd quarterback. That's the name that really stands out to me right now. I just read an article from someone who covers the Steelers, who says that the battle of the long snappers. We've got Christian Kuntz, who was with the Renegades in 2020, and Rex Sunahara, who was with the Brahmas in 2023, and somebody referred to that as a dead heat. So it sounds like Sunahara's got a shot at unseating Christian Kuntz in Pittsburgh for the long snapper job. Really, other than that, it is really hard to see. There are a couple of guys who, if injuries happen, because a lot of what happens at cut down day is you get a lot of guys who get placed on IR or who get waived injured, who you would have maybe thought were going to make the team, and that could open up a spot or 2 on the roster. But really, DiNucci is the one that stands out to me. I think he's got a shot if Denver keeps 3, because they've only got 3 quarterbacks in camp. So if they keep 3 quarterbacks, it's going to be DiNucci. And the new rule this year rewards teams for keeping 3 quarterbacks by allowing them to keep a 3rd quarterback active on game day in case the first 2 get hurt. So it does incentivize teams to keep that 3rd quarterback, whereas in the past, half the teams in the league have kept 2 and half the teams in the league have kept 3. So Alize Mack with Tennessee, I know he didn't play the first game. I'm not sure if he was nicked up for that one, but he actually started last week, and he's a guy who I think has a possibility of making the team as a tight end in Tennessee. So I guess if I was foolish enough to put money on this, those would be 2 or 3 names that I could see cracking the roster.
Finally, kind of here, we'll wind this down. What interesting will be, because obviously the XFL players retaining these rights, they come back. We've done what was it called? The college? No, that was USFL was the college draft. The XFL did the rookie draft, and then we're going to have the supplemental draft in the fall. And then, there's going to be a stacked load of guys here trying to get through these XFL rosters. Thankfully that's good. A lot more spots, but even that, if you're going back to the XFL and they brought in other guys, but they're retaining your rights, there's going to kind of be some battles there, and maybe it's the same politics as the NFL. Well, we had these guys last year, and they kind of get first come.
Yeah, it's going to be a similar situation. There are going to be guys, good players who get cut from the XFL. And we've seen that happen this past year. And they've gone to the CFL, they've gone to the IFL, they've gone to the USFL. It's a good market to be a football player in, because you do have a lot of options, even if your first choice or second choice is not there. The XFL, what they've done is they've made a lot of opportunities for teams to acquire players. We had the rookie draft, we had the XFL combine, and then we had the sort of allocation of players after the combine to teams. We had this bizarre draft / don't call it a draft, where the XFL teams acquired rights to players. I'm not sure what qualifications went into what players could be claimed, since you had players coming out like Anthony Gordon saying, wait a minute, I'm claimed, I'm retired. Like what? So I don't know what basis they went and claimed these players on, but they did it en masse. And as you said, they'll have a draft this fall. I'm not sure that they've officially announced a date. I know October, November is probably what we're looking at for that. And then I would assume nothing has been made official about this, but I would assume January again, as training camp starts for anyone whose USFL contract expires, anyone who, late to the party NFL cuts who want to join the league. So they have made a lot of avenues available for XFL teams to accumulate players onto their 90-man rosters this offseason. You have to imagine a lot of those players are going to be in the NFL. There are still players who were claimed in the rookie draft way back in June who are getting workouts in the NFL right now. So there's a chance that some of these guys get signed and are on teams. And, you're going to have some guys who get claimed who don't report. They choose to go to the USFL, or like Anthony Gordon, retire, or just not play in a spring league in 2024. So, not every guy who's been claimed or who's been drafted is going to show up to camp. And I think that's why they've kind of expanded the rosters to 90. They know that if they're only taking 60 to 70 to camp again, there's going to be a handful of players on each team who probably choose not to report.
Well, and they don't need to, they're not paying for that. Like you're on the team, they're not like, there's no...
on the roster. They have your rights. That's really, I guess, what it means. You're not really on a roster in the same way that you're on an NFL offseason roster. It's the same verbiage, but it's very different in terms of especially pay.
It's so funny. In the CFL, they have like the neg list and negotiation list for all the teams, and there's numbers, but it's the same thing, like claimed. And if you ever come up to Canada, they get first rights or whatever. And Edmonton, they're like 1-9, just won their first game last week. They had on for years, Chad Kelly was on their negotiations list, and then they had traded it to Toronto as part of a trade like the year before. And then Chad Kelly comes up and he's like a rock star in Toronto. And it's like it could have been. So, I like this. I like the negs list and the negotiations and all that. But anything else we get out? This is why I would like more marketing, just also about what the league is of itself. Because yes, this is wonderful. We champion all of this stuff, but you need to give these players a home, because a lot of them aren't going to make it.
And I think that hopefully that comes with time. We can rail on the marketing, and we did, and for good reason. But really, they didn't have there's not a lot of history to draw from. If you are like the ownership and you don't want to acknowledge 2001 and you don't really want to acknowledge 2020 either, like you're starting from scratch. There's really nothing to hang your hat on other than literally what your league does, which is give opportunities to guys to go to the NFL. There's no history to these franchises that you can market. The players, they don't have a history in the XFL. Many of them don't have a real strong NFL history that you can market. So hopefully as time goes on, as the years go by, the XFL continues to sustain itself. It makes its own history, and then that becomes your marketing arm, and maybe you don't put the kind of marketing that they're doing now, which is almost solely, hey, we're putting guys in the NFL. Maybe you kind of tamp that down a little bit and you focus more on who you are and what you've done throughout your history and what you're going to continue to do.
I think that's a really good point. I think that's really smart. I know that last year with the USFL, a lot of the people kind of behind the scenes, they're like, oh, this is awesome. Like, look at all the players, and then reality hits and it's Cavante Turpin, the dust settles. And I'll be curious this year, with Danny and everything, like when it's great right now. And Rock's tweeting player 54 got signed and all this stuff. And it was just like, of course he's tweeting that. But then, come next week or the week after, like, oh, okay. Like, so now we kind of actually know the economics of this because I don't know if they even know right now.
Yeah. And I hope that they champion these players throughout the NFL season. If they make teams, if they make plays, if they make practice squads, that is something that fans can say, hey, I saw that guy when I was in St. Louis when he was a linebacker for the Battlehawks. Now it's almost like, I know people don't like to consider it minor league. I don't like to call it minor league, but it's a lot of the same mindset as a fan, where if I go to, a minor league baseball game, a lot of those guys I don't know, right? But I watch them, and then, if I see them play in a Major League Baseball game on TV and I hear a name, I'll be like, oh, I saw that guy back when he was with this team. And so nobody wants to call themselves minor league. No one wants to call attention to that. But I think a lot of the mindset that the fans have, justifiably so, I'm not saying it's wrong, I think it's a great mindset to have, is to hopefully track these players, as they were a Battlehawk one day and now they're a Miami Dolphin or something like that. I mean, that's cool. And that should be something that is championed by the fans and by the league.
Well, I mean, that's why I have my Washington Commanders hat on, is we had to cover it so much with Heineke and everything kind of during that, because we didn't have anything to podcast about. I'm watching, at that time it was the football team games every week. And now, I mean, obviously I'll follow Heineke, I can't. So now I'm in the land of Falcons. I can only go so far, but that was why, it was because of all that, was to hear with someone that we followed his story. And so, I mean, I can't be the only crazy person out there.
No, you're not. No, not at all.
Greg, I appreciate it. It's late on the East Coast. Go hang out with your family. I appreciate it. I'm making the time back at school. Dorothy, we've spent the last couple days setting up her classroom. They're moving schools, so we're starting from the bottom there as well, 0 to 100. So it's been a lot of work, but you guys do good work, and I appreciate all you do educating the youth of America.
Thanks. It ain't easy, but it's rewarding. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Well, here we are back here, busy summer here with CFL. Now we have fellow CFL podcaster. We can call him that, on top of, Hall of Famer and Grey Cup winner and all that. Milt Stegall, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Loving life. Everything is great, happy, healthy, and that's all that matters, man. Hopefully the same with you.
It's good. It's good. Yeah. So what spawned the podcast? First off, and we'll get to the thoughts on everything else with the season.
Yeah, Davis and I, we've been brainstorming for like the last 2 or 3 years, talking about, we wanted to do a podcast. And as you know, everyone has a podcast, but, we just wanted to do something different. When we're on the panel, we only have so much time to talk. So with a podcast, you can get out more information. You can say different things. You can almost spread your wings. So that's what we're doing. We're just trying to build it up and see where it can go. So we're excited about it. It's in its infant stage, but we're having some fun with it, and hopefully it continues on for many years to come.
Well, that's good. Yeah, no, CFL and lots of voices. And obviously I get that all the time, because we'll have Farhan and Naylor on and stuff. And it's the same thing. They get 2.5 minutes on a TSN hit. And it's like, no, we need to kind of flush this stuff out. What do you make here? We're week 11 here. What do you make of the CFL season, or week 12? Oh my gosh, I'm behind.
Yeah, no, it's been crazy. You got the top dogs with BC, Toronto, and of course Winnipeg. But now you see some teams starting to catch up. Saskatchewan, they've played some decent ball. Montreal, who's been a surprise to many, of course, are going to get their first challenges upcoming week, but they played some decent ball. And then we have the Elks, who finally got their first victory. There is a God, right? But it's been some disappointments too. Hamilton, who's hosting the Grey Cup this year. I mean, I think it's safe to say they're the worst team in the CFL right now. it's a bad place to be in Ottawa, who's almost won so many games, but almost means nothing. That's like saying I'm almost pregnant. It doesn't exist. So it's a roller coaster ride like most CFL seasons. And, we're excited about it. Labor Day is coming up in a couple of weeks. And we've seen some young quarterbacks display some good talent. So I'm always excited about what the rest of the season is going to bring.
Yeah, a lot of big movements this week with the Elks. Obviously, they're hosting this weekend, but with all the Victor Quees of it all, and now we have Rick being appointed as kind of the interim president and CEO. What did you make? Because Victor's been on the show a bunch, and it kind of seemed like that all came out of the blue here of hey, there's a big schism there in the organization.
Yeah, you had to pull the plug on someone. You couldn't stand Pat. I'm sure they would love to do it, to have done it to some coaches, but the way things are structured. With the operation caps and guaranteed contract, they couldn't do that. So they had to do something. You're trying to get fans back. And if you continue doing the same thing, getting the same results, you're not going to get any fans back. I mean, it was definitely good for them to get that first victory, but they had to make a major move within that organization. And unfortunately, it had to be Victor, and I wouldn't be surprised if something else happens later on in the year in off season, because changes have to be made when your team is playing like that. Let's hope they continue winning games, because that's not only good for them, but that's good for everyone in the CFL. So, but when you're losing, moves unfortunately have to be made.
Yeah, I mean, it was already talking that, like privatization of the team here in the offseason. I mean, it could be big kind of landscape shifting kind of movements here, right?
Yeah, that I'm hearing that still may be in the works. I'm sure the community doesn't want that. It's been a community-owned team, I think, since its existence. But when things aren't going well, you have to open up all the doors and listen to everyone who's behind those doors. I'm sure there are some big money guys in Edmonton or in Alberta who would love to own the Elks now. So they have to listen to that. They're losing a lot of money because a lot of money has not been being generated for years. They had money stocked away that they could chip at, but now that chipping has been a lot more than what they've expected. So they have to make sure that they do their due diligence and open up all the doors. And as I alluded to, see who's behind those doors and see what they're saying.
Now that we've seen Trey play, for Edmonton, and obviously played really well in the loss and said they didn't go for it hard enough, and then obviously winning here last week. I mean, I think, I know the salary cap and all that, but I made the joke that Chris Jones should be fired just out of spite here at this point, that it's taken him this long to play. I mean, what do you make of it took so long and Trey seems like everything everyone thought he was going to be?
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I've heard from reliable sources that he just was not getting it done in practice. If they thought he would have given him a better chance of winning than the other two guys, they would have put him in there. And I've heard that from a very reliable source, but he just wasn't getting it done. And right now, he did get it done. He's won one of his two games, and hopefully, for their sake and everyone else, that hopefully he can get it done. But he just wasn't getting it done. If Chris Jones thought putting Trey Ford in would give him a better opportunity to win with the way they've been losing, I'm sure he would have did it. There's no question about it, but he wasn't getting it done. But I'm sure he thought to himself, Chris Jones, hey, I have nothing to lose now. My guys aren't getting it done, so let's see what he can do. And he's fortunate to get that first victory. But Chris Jones is not in a position, or he wasn't thinking to himself, I'm not going to play this guy for certain reasons. We've heard people say for certain reasons why he wasn't playing him, and all that is false. He wasn't planning because he felt he wasn't going to give him that best opportunity to win. But now he knew, hey, what do I have to lose? Let me give him an opportunity. And he was able to win him a game. And hopefully he can continue playing well and win him some more games.
Were you impressed with Trey's two outings so far? I mean, I know we've seen him before, but this season?
I was impressed with the second outing. I mean, the first outing, and I know some people are going to say, well, he played well enough for them to win. No, he didn't. If he played well enough, they had to win the game. What did they do in the second half? He did well in that game against when they won the game, but now he has to continue that. You have to continue that. He's won one game. I need to see consistency. I need you to go out there and play better and better and develop. And then we'll start saying, okay, maybe he could be their starting quarterback, but he's won one game. I hear so many people saying that he needs to be their starter for the rest of the year. Let's see what he can do in this second game. I'm happy for him. He went out there. He's been itching to play. He did well. But let's see what he can do in upcoming games.
Yeah, because that first game where they fell apart against Winnipeg, my conspiracy, and I know that Hamilton is kind of trash right now, but last week with the rain delay, maybe if they played the whole game, maybe Edmonton doesn't win, because it really felt like they came back from that rain delay and it was like, let's kind of get done with this. And we've been sitting around for an hour and a half. I'd be curious if that game was played kind of over its initial 60 minutes, how that would have panned out.
You never know. You just don't know. It's unfortunate that we've been having a lot of delays this season, and I'm sure Edmonton looked at it like, hold on, what's going on here? We're playing the best we played, and this happened. Let's get this game going. Let's finish this game. We need to get a victory under our belt. But you don't control Mother Nature as part of the game. Everyone had to suffer through it, but they were fortunate. They came out and they kept the ball rolling, and they got a victory. Now they're going to try to do it again. Now they're going to try to get their first home victory as the Elks, which has never happened before. So it's not going to be an easy task. They're going to be playing against an Ottawa team who's hungry, who knows they have enough talent, at least they think they do, where they could have won some games. So I'm really looking forward to that game.
Yeah, I think Marshall Ferguson needs to be banned here. I think we clearly
every time he shows up.
So we're seeing here Winnipeg, right? The Thursday game. I think we're going to get this out tomorrow. Preview all that. Montreal looking good, right? Certainly contending in the East with Cody and everything else. Are you impressed? I know he's been injured, but like with Caleb Evans, everything. What have you made of Montreal here?
I'm impressed. They've won 4 in a row since the Eliminator. Sean Lemon has been there, but got to pump your brakes a little bit because you look at the teams who they've beaten. They've beaten, I think, Saskatchewan, Hamilton, Ottawa, and Calgary, and now they're about to play the big dogs. They have 4 straight games against the big dogs, Winnipeg, BC, Toronto, and Toronto. And now we're going to find out if they're able to stay on the porch. You know the saying, if you can't hang with the big dogs, get off the porch. Now we're going to find out if they're able to stay on the porch because they're going to be tested now. They're getting Cody back. Their defense has been playing out of their mind since Sean Lemon has been there. He's been telling me he's been a leader, but a leader saying all this stuff can only go so far. They have to continue to produce on the field. They've been doing that in these first 4 games, but now these next 4 games, this stretch is going to really test them because they're playing their upper echelon CFL teams, and we're going to see what they can do with it.
I think I think Calero's coming back this week. We had a couple weeks of the Drew Brown experience. One was significantly more impressive than the other, but what have you made of his performance?
I mean, it is what it is. He's a young quarterback only in his second year. He was thrown into that backup role, and he lit it up against Edmonton. But then when you're a starter, when teams have time to prepare for you, when there's pressure on you, when you're young, it's different. It's not the same. I think in the future, he could be a quarterback that a franchise could possibly depend on. We don't know that yet, but it takes time. It's just not going to happen overnight. A lot of people were expecting him to duplicate what he did in that first game against Edmonton, but that very rarely happens because it's a total situation when you're expected to go out there and do everything. When Edmonton, he wasn't expected. No one was expecting him to go in there and do those things he did against that second game. He was expected to do it, and there was a lot of pressure, and he didn't perform. So hopefully he gets another opportunity to be a starter in this league.
Well, it's similar, like you said. I mean, you seem to be hesitant on all of these. With Trey and even like Dustin Crum, we kind of had the Crum sanity for a couple weeks. He's fallen back down. Do you feel that? I think CFL is so like quarterback starved, and then we see a little bit, and it's like, oh my gosh, we start going crazy. You think we need to take our time?
Yeah, and on TV, it's our job to pump them up. They can go out there and have one great quarter. This is the next Doug Flutie, the next Warren Moon, the next Damon Allen. But we all understand it takes time. Quarterback is the most difficult position in team sports. It gets no more difficult. You only have to know your job. You have to know what everyone else on offense is doing. You're trying to figure out what people on the defense is doing. You're trying to avoid getting hit by a 285-pound defense end who's faster than you. So there's a lot going on. It doesn't happen overnight. Very rarely do we see a Ricky Ray who steps in right away and has success, not only short term, but long term. So we have to pump the brakes on, these guys, give them time to develop because it's not an easy task stepping in and being a professional quarterback.
And speaking of not just a quarterback, but he certainly faltered here. Jake Mayer not really having the most wonderful season, a lot of expectations. I think I had him on preseason last year. Like, I really want to hitch your ride here because Bo Levi and all of that. What's going on with Calgary?
I don't know, and it's been a bad situation, and I don't want to say this, but it's almost like they lost faith in Jake Mayer. The only time that offense is productive is when they're running the ball. there's been times, a couple of games ago, late in the game, they were down like, I think 17, 18 points for about 5 or 6 minutes, and they're still running the ball. Like they don't believe in him. They got rid of Bo Levi Mitchell, saying this was our guy, and he seems to be going backwards. He doesn't seem to be getting any better. We saw that first year he stepped on the scene. First 3 games, 300 over 300 yards, never happened for a rookie. Second year, he played pretty well. They set Bo Levi Mitchell down, saying you are our guy. And then he comes into this year, and it's not happening. He's not looking good at all. And it's crazy because he's leading the league in passing yards, but it doesn't feel that way. He hasn't been playing well. His team can't depend on him. Hopefully he can get out of this slump because we've seen some great things out of him. But as far as this year goes, it's looking real bad, and I don't know how it gets any better.
Do you attribute, because it seems like the play calling for Calgary is a little, it's a lot of short passes, a lot of check down. I mean, is it just all of Jake? I mean, you blaming the staff over there?
Well, no, it's never always on the quarterback. But as the saying goes, when things are going well, the quarterback gets more credit than he deserves. And when things are going bad, he gets more of the blame. I mean, receivers are dropping balls. I think this is the first year Dave Dickinson hasn't called any offensive plays. I know, if I'm correct, it's still his offense, but he's not calling the plays. I could see in the near future him saying, okay, I got to take these ringbacks. I have to be in total control if it's not working out. So there's a plethora of things that are not going their way, but the bottom line is it's always almost on the quarterback because you're the one who's touching the ball every single time. And when things aren't happening, the pressure's on you to get it done, to go out there and make it happen, regardless of what your receivers are doing, regardless of whether plays are being called. When you want to be a great or good quarterback, you go out there and make it happen regardless of the circumstances.
They're facing Toronto, coming off inexplicably their 3rd bye week here, and I think along. It's going to be like you said. I mean, Montreal here has got a couple coming up against Toronto, but I mean, these are big tests for Toronto as well, and especially without the byes. How impressed are you with them and Chad Kelly and everything else over there?
Impressed, very impressed. They've been playing some great football. They have the one loss to Calgary, but besides that, they've been rolling. And I'm not looking beyond any of the teams they play, but I'm really looking forward to that Toronto Winnipeg game. The 2 top MOP candidates, but. Let me get back to what they're doing right now. Yes, they have a tough task. Anytime you play a professional team, it's a tough task. But what they've been doing over there has been spectacular. And it starts with Chad Kelly. It's hard to believe, this is basically his first year starting in the league. The way he handles the offense, the way he handles adversity, the way he commands things. And then you have the great running game with Olet and Andrew Harris and that defense. They're flying around. Ryan Dinwiddie, a good buddy of mine, I talked to him, and even when I talked to assistant coaches and everyone there, they just said the atmosphere that Ryan has created is second to none. Yes, he is hard-nosed. Yes, he expects greatness. Yes, he's going to grind them, but he also likes players to be relaxed and enjoy themselves. So they're rolling right now. They are the top team in the league right now, and it's going to be tough for anyone to beat them if you're not on your A game.
Well, it's crazy too, because I mean, he's kind of always been under the gun coming in with the COVID year and having to kind of figure that out. And I think he's had a lot of criticisms. And I know Mike Mitchell, who writes with us, has covered a lot of that, where he gets a lot more criticism for whatever reason. And here he's seemed to have built this winning culture that, even last year, Grey Cup, and you had Winnipeg coming in, and Toronto kind of bootstraps and fighting on the sidelines were able to get everything done somehow. They were kind of able to band it up together. It just seems it's good for him. I mean, it's good. As we talked with him the media day last year, very impressed with Dinwiddie.
Yeah, and you talk about that criticism. The one thing about Ryan Dinwiddie, and we see coaches, we see players do this all the time. Once they start getting criticized, they're looking for excuses. They shy away from it. That's never him. There were a couple of times early on in his career where he made some mismanaged some time management, and he said it was all on me. It was all on me. I made mistakes. He never shies away from it. When it's on him, it's on him, and that's impressive. And you have to respect that. And if you have a coach like that who's not going to shy away from it, who's going to take the blame when it's on him, eventually he's going to have success. And now you see it happening. Now you see him orchestrating a great performance week in and week out. Now you see guys who respect and love him and will go out there and do anything for him because they know he has their best interests at heart. So it's exciting. It's good to see him having success. It's good to see success in Toronto because we know it's a tough market to play in. And right now they're doing some great things. And I think everyone in the GTA, everyone in Ontario is definitely excited about what's going on in Toronto.
With Hamilton here, I think people thought it was a bad case scenario last year where Saskatchewan hosting the Grey Cup and didn't even make the playoffs. I mean, this has to be even worse case scenario this year, Hamilton, and just, here we're going to bring in Bo Levi and we're going to steamroll. I mean, what have you, and I know he's had injuries, but didn't look good when he was in, and now Powell's not really kind of doing anything here. What are you making of Hamilton?
Ah, man. I don't curse, so I can't say those things, but you can see it all over Orlando Steinauer's face. You could just see the frustration that he's going through, the pressure that he's under. I mean, they get rid of their offensive coordinator, and that wasn't the problem. But as I mentioned with the Elks, you got to put the blame on somebody. Bringing in Scott Milanovich it's not going to make that big of a deal. Yes, he's had some success, but I mean, shucks, I could call the players in there and it wouldn't make that big of a deal. There's a lot going on within that organization that they have to try to resolve. And the good thing about it, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. And once you get in the playoffs, you never know what can happen. But right now, it's just not happening. It's not happening on all three facets of the game, offense, defense, or special teams. And you can see the coaches, they're frustrated. Everyone is just frustrated. And the fans are frustrated. The most important people in the CFL, when they're frustrated, when they're not showing up, that's a big problem. So they still have time. We're at the halfway point. They still have time to try to resolve some issues, but it's going to take a lot. The quarterback situation, they're down to third, fourth string quarterback. They can't get it done. They're going to try to rely on Butler to run the ball, but they have a lot of problems that they got to try to iron out. And hopefully they can do those and make it to the playoffs. If not, it's going to be a tough offseason for the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Yeah, I mean, the decline they've had in the last 3 years, even since we've been, covering the league, and to be almost there, and then last year and kind of, completely fall off. Do you see wholesale changes coming for the Ticats if Steinhauer and everyone can't get it together?
Wholesale. I don't know if that's the right big changes, maybe. And I don't know if those two mean the same thing. I don't know, but there'll be some changes. Yeah, because you can see they're on the decline now. They're getting worse. As the years going on, as the last year they've been in the Grey Cup, it's on the decline, and you can't continue if you're on a decline and trying to get out of that decline with the same individuals. Let it be coaches, let it be players. You got to make some changes. What those changes may be, I don't know. I think Orlando is safe, but I could see some other coaches, some other major players on that team being let go because, as I mentioned, fans are going to keep coming back. If you bring back the same things you're going to get different results.
I about threw my BC Lions hat in the trash, Skip Bayless style, here after our loss last week against Saskatchewan, because I just said these are the games that you need to win. I mean, I've seen this last year. We were in BC. We beat Calgary. We go into Winnipeg, Rourke and everything. And, you got all the, however many people that holds 50,000 people screaming, whatever, the IG field. I feel like I've seen this before. These are the games we need to win. BC's had a couple big bad losses this year along with their dominance. What did you make of that? Dalagala just running circle. I mean, we made Dalagala look like he was Patrick Mahomes out there. I just didn't understand it.
Yeah, that defense was not what we expected, was not what we've seen. And Ryan Phillips has really had his defense balling out. Of course, they had the game against Winnipeg, but I actually think this last game against Saskatchewan was their worst game because they weren't – and there's some times where teams are going to just be able to be better than you, but they weren't aggressive. They seemed that they thought that they could just step on the field and make it happen, and that's not the case regardless of who you're playing. So that was a big disappointment. They could have really put a stamp on where they thought or where they think their season could have been going, but now they took a couple of steps back. So it is professional football. The good thing about it, you get another opportunity, but that right there was not a good performance. Shout out to that quarterback, VA. He showed me something in that game. Coming back after being injured, he was basically on two wonky legs, and he was still out there making some great throws, some great plays, but it was definitely a letdown by that defense, who at one point was the best defense in the CFL. So let's see if they can bounce back in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out, and I know Ryan. I actually filmed his wedding many years ago. It was a
Oh wow.
small circle that this whole world is, but I just had to figure he had to have been strangling necks on the side. Like you're the hey, we're the Donut Boys. We're coming out, and
Right.
like these are the wins you need to stack because at the end of the year it's going to come down to you and Winnipeg, and like you have to
Yes.
take him where you can get him here. I just didn't understand coming out and just they've had a couple of these games now where like Campbell's saying like rinse it off, and they're like, no, you need to remember this because you need to. These are the ones you need to hold on to when you can.
Yeah, without a doubt. You can't let situations like when you're playing teams you're supposed to beat, everyone's expecting you gotta win. You gotta you gotta win 9 out of 10 of them. Now every now and then you have a slip up, but you gotta win 9 out of 10 of them. And to lose in the fashion in which they lost, where their offense was scoring points, the defense couldn't stop them, emulous, jumping all over the place like he's LeBron James, just dunking on folks. You can't let those things happen against teams you're supposed to win against. So it's a learning lesson. Hopefully they learn their lesson. I'm sure Ryan Phillips is going to drill it in their head, guys. Every time you step on the field, you got to come with your A game. Otherwise, these things happen. And hopefully they learn their lesson.
Are you tired on the panel of talking about the Elks home losing streak now? Like, are you really tired of it?
I'm tired, but we have to talk about it. I mean, we would do everyone a disservice if we didn't. It's part of my job. Definitely, it's so redundant. It's like brushing my teeth. You do it 2 or 3 times, and that's what we're doing every week. We're talking about it. Let's hope they can get it resolved and we can move on. But if not, we have to continue talking because it's a big story. The fact that like I said, the last time they won a home game, I think I had hair. The internet wasn't around. I don't even think you were born. You're so young then. So it's unfortunate that they haven't. But as long as they don't do it, don't accomplish it, we have to continue. And when they do it, we're going to hype it up. We're going to talk about it. But if they don't soon, we're going to continue talking about the fact that they haven't been able to do it.
Yes, I see their tweets go out. They're like, tailgating the last time the Elks won. It's like a picture of the Last Supper or whatever. Like, it's funny stuff. But I mean, just to kind of round out the conversation here, Ottawa coming in, really struggling. Trey looking good, getting more familiar. I mean, do you think this is the week? And what do you make of this matchup?
We've been saying that for a while. This is the week. We say that every week. This is the week. I'm going to say it again. This is the week. But it's not going to be easy task. As you talked about, Ottawa, they are a hungry team. They're trying to stay in the playoff race. They feel they have a good enough quarterback in Crum. They can get it done. They feel that they've been so close in so many games, and now it's time for them to get over the hump. So it's not going to be easy task, but it would be good for these Elks to get it. It'll be good for Trey Ford to go out there and play again and get some of those fans coming back into the stands and getting it back to what Edmonton used to be. As I alluded to, it's not going to be easy task, but as we've been saying every single week, this is the week. The Elks will get their first home victory as the Elks, and we're all excited about it.
Just to finish this up, we tied a lot of the quarterbacks, but obviously that's one of the things. Turnover here at the end of the season, depending what happens with Bo, and we've obviously seen Trevor Harris go down and Mazzoli. Like, what do you make in here of the next swath? We got the Dustin Crums of the world and Trey Ford. Like, is this the next era? Are we seeing this kind of be ushered in?
Yeah, it has to be. At the quarterback position, if our quarterbacks aren't playing well, this league is bad. I know some people like to say they like to see defensive shutouts. No, we don't like to see low-scoring games. This game is meant to be a high-scoring game, so we got to get some of these younger guys developing. As you mentioned, the older guys, you're getting injured. Bo Levi Mitchell, Trevor Harris. We've seen Cody take some, even Zach. These guys are getting older. We don't know how long we have left, so we got to get some of these younger guys to continue playing well. It's good to see Chad Kelly playing well. We know what his final destination. We know he wants to go to the NFL, and hopefully he gets that opportunity. But if he doesn't, hopefully he can stay around here forever. Dustin Crum, Trey Ford, all these guys. We need to continue playing well because our quarterback position is the most important, more important than the GM, the head coach, anyone else. We have to make sure they continue well, and hopefully these young guys continue playing well for this year and years to come.
Well, Milt, I appreciate your time. I mean, this feels like it's been a good, kind of bounce back season here coming. We had COVID and then it was kind of coming off of that and everything. Feels like it's back up to speed here. You feel good about the league here moving forward?
Yes, I do. I do. Viewership is up. Of course, we have some stadiums where the fans aren't showing up, but I think we can get that fixed. Would resolve in other situations. But I'm excited about it. It's been some crazy games. There's been some boring games. I would be lying if I say there hasn't been. But there's been some exciting games in the CFL, and everyone involved is excited about it. More fans, more younger fans are tuning in, and hopefully we can get that young viewership tuned in even more. So we're excited. Second half of the season, looking forward to it, and looking forward to another exciting Grey Cup, which will be coming up in November.
Well, we'll be up there. We have our flights booked. We'll be in Hamilton. So I appreciate it. Your time today. It means a lot. So thank you for everything going on.
Yeah, and also thank you for all you do. You support us a lot. You support a lot of leagues, but you give a lot of love to the CFL down in the States, and we're all thankful for all the things you do for us.
Well, you appreciate was it hashtag paper plates? Do we have the backstory of that? Did I ask you that
you have, and millions of people have, but there's only two people on the earth who knows what that means, and that's me and my older son. The person who sleeps next to me every single night doesn't even know. So I can't tell you, and she doesn't know. So there's only two human beings. So maybe when I die and someone writes my book, I'll let them know what's going on then. So we got 100 years before I die. So there we go.
All right, well, take care. I appreciate it.
All right, man. You have a good one. Thanks a lot.
Well, here we are coming off a big game over the weekend. We'll talk about, not a great, win-loss, but a good game for you regardless. Here we have Alex. Hollins, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How about you?
I'm good. We'll talk about it. I call the BC Lions America's CFL team, so I hope you co-sign that. You guys are representing all of America when you go out and play. How do you feel?
I feel pretty good about that. It's good. It's a good thing to feel about.
So we've had on Vernon preseason. I think you're the first Lions player we've had on during the season. What's the vibe like? What are you guys like this season? What's the locker room? What's it? How are you guys doing?
Locker room doing great, man. We have a good record, winning record. We 7-3 right now. I mean, those games we lost, we wish we could have done a lot more better. But at the end of the day, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some. But I feel like this locker room is great. We love each other, and we love playing for each other. We trust each other, and that's all that really matters.
What I've always liked about you guys in the wide receiver core is it feels like it's like a team effort, right? And no one feels the need to kind of have to be the superstar. We've had Lucky on before, and we've had Keenan on. Like, talk about just kind of your guys' relationship and how you guys operate.
Honestly, when I think about this receiver room, I feel like we all are superstars to this offense. You just never know when a guy can have this breakaway game, or have the big play. You never know. And we have a stacked receiver room, which is very good to have. All of us are very talented. We all have our own strengths. We just put them all together, just kind of make it one big superpower. And that kind of makes it a hard thing to stop once we get going and executing very well. Then we're a very good group.
Because I can imagine, and I've of course never been a star playing professional sports like you guys, but there could be jealousy and animosity, or hey, who's getting more touches or whatever. But it does seem like it's this. As long as we win, it doesn't matter who it is. It could be your night one night. It could be Lucky's night one night. It could be kind of across the board.
Nah, there's no jealousy at all. Actually, it's kind of like friendly competition with all of us. We always gonna be like, who gonna get in the chicken box? So when we say that, it's gonna be like, who's gonna score a touchdown, or who gonna outwork me, or you ain't finna outwork me. It's always competition. So we do that in practice and in game. First place, some guys tell each other like, hey, you ain't finna outwork me today. And so that's how we do it. We compete, but we're not in competition with each other. If that makes sense. So we just work hard. We just work hard as individuals, and we work hard as a group together. And we all just feed off each other's energy. Anybody make a big play or a first down or a tough catch or whatever, we feed off that. We feed off one another, and we just keep it going, and make big plays.
Coming in, obviously, short stint last year. Coming in now, first kind of full season with the CFL. What is it like playing up in Canada, playing with the different field, the rules? How are you kind of customizing?
Oh, I adjusted well to it. Not but last year when I first got here, you got to get used to the waggle. You get the head start run. You can work down the line of scrimmage. I first got here, I'm like, man, what is this? This is not how football goes, but that's how it goes in the CFL. And once I got used to it and getting that timing down with the quarterbacks and everything, things that got like a lot better for me. And as you can see now, I've been making a lot of plays for the offense, for the team. And yeah, so things are clicking now.
Talk about Vernon. Like I said, we've had him on the show, friend, and he's from Tacoma here. We're like 20 minutes apart in the as the crow flies. Locker room leader. What's he like? What do you like about him?
VA man, he real chill. He'll joke around every now and then, but I'm always joking with him, having him laughing and stuff. So VA, he's a real good dude, man. I love that dude. So I love joking with him all the time. I make fun of him every day. So, and that's just how that's just what we do. But he's a great dude on and off the field. Um, he's just a great person to be around.
Well, even when he was going through, and obviously the injury and coming back, where he was off a couple weeks there, he's getting water for the O-line and he's walking around and hyping people up. I mean, it seems like he's really kind of invested all in this season to really be a part of it with you guys.
Yeah, he's really invested. Whether he playing or not. When he playing, he obviously he's invested. He's a quarterback. But when he wasn't playing, he was just keeping guys up, keeping guys motivated. That's him on and off the field. So and that's a good thing to have from a quarterback. That's a good thing to have from any type of player on your team. You want to have a guy like that. That motivate you, and no matter what happens, it's just to keep you uplift you. So that's great to have.
When I look at your guys' receivers, you and everyone, it just seems like there's so much depth. You guys are all so talented in so many different ways. You've said you feel like you have a great receiver room. Do you attribute that to this, like scouting, or like how did it just seems like you guys are the wealth of resources right now for being able to kind of put points up on the board and run the score up? What do you attribute that to?
Man, not to make it sound easier said than done, but we just put in the work. That's it. We just put in the work, man, and the result shows on game day. That's it. We should put in the work. You work hard, you're gonna get good results.
Coming off wasn't the most spectacular game here over the weekend. I was, I had my hat and you're kind of throwing it in the garbage. I was very upset as a fan. How do you guys internalize a tough game like that? It was a tough game.
Yeah, tough loss. We lost by 5 points. Yeah, we lost by 5 points. Then you're gonna have some of those games, those close ones that you should have won. Those close nail biter games, but despite of us losing, I love the way our team just fought. We fought till the clock says zero, and that's what we love. Like those mistakes that we made, they can be fixed. There's a lot of mistakes made in all phases of the game. Obviously, offense, defense, and special teams, and we're going to correct those, and we will correct those things. But I just love the way we fought together as a team. No one pointed the finger at nobody. We all took the L, just like men. Like I said, you win some, you lose some. But at the end of the day, I just love the way that we fought till the clock says zero, and that's all that matters. And any day I play for anybody, play with anybody who's gonna fight. So that's why I love playing for this team. Love playing for everyone on this team, all the players and this coaching staff. Because us as a unit, we gonna fight to the end.
I'm always curious to kind of check after the games, kind of the post sound, and they post, Rick, a little bit of his talking to you guys, Coach Rick, in the locker room. And I listened to Vernon's post game and things. Does that resonate with you? When Coach Rick and you guys had the tough loss before to the Argos talking, okay, we need to wash this, move on. Do you appreciate the messaging that you guys are getting in the locker room, kind of win or lose?
Yeah, we win or lose. Coach Rick will have something positive to say. Even with the losses that we had, it's always some good. It's not as bad as it always seems. And the things Coach Rick say and what he does and how he coaches us and what he does for us. That's a coach that you want to give your all for. And he's a player coach, and so all the things that he be saying are right things, obviously. And yeah, that's it. So once he says something, it's nothing else to be said.
Vernon, we talked, obviously, but in the game, gutsy performance, put up 450, I think, plus yards. You had a score, multiple receptions. Just a gutsy performance all around from him. Does that inspire you? What do you look at, when you're looking at him on the field? What does that make you think?
I'll be like, man, this dude good. Lucky, I'm glad he's our quarterback, But VA, he just make plays. He just make plays from anywhere on the field. He gonna always put the ball in a great spot for the receiver to catch, and that's what he does. And that's what he did. And so, like I said, like a moment ago, we all wish we could have done something a little bit better to come out with that win. And like he feels like that too, cause I talked with him also. And but he gonna do what he gonna do regardless. You know, he ain't gonna make plays, so that's what he gonna do, and that's what we expect him to do, and he expects himself to do that, and that's what he been doing for us. Every game he plays, he made big plays.
You talked about having, kind of competition at work and a lot of the guys. Who are the other receivers? Who do you kind of have competition with the day of the game? Or what's kind of your relationship with everyone else there in the room?
Everybody, everybody competes with each other. It's not just one or two guys. It's everybody. So is me and Hatch, Hatch during practice today. Hatch was like, "Hey, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. I'm right there on you. I'm coming for you now." I was like, "Oh man, okay, let me see. Oh yeah, you trying to come for? I gotta make sure you don't get me, then you don't catch me." First play of the game, of the SAS game, Justin McKinnis, he was like, "Who gonna get a chicken box first? Who gonna get the first catch? Or we gonna do this? We gonna do that?" So we always compete with each other, friendly competition, but it's fun. It makes us compete a lot harder, and we just love doing it, and that's what makes it fun for us. And we just love playing with each other. It'd be so much fun.
Undefeated at home, right, this season. What's it about, kind of the atmosphere there? And we've had Amar on in the past and talking about kind of trying to build the culture there. What is it like playing at home?
Great atmosphere, great fans. They always come to cheer at home. They loud, going crazy. That's what we love, and they show a lot of support. And we, like you said, we're undefeated at home, and that's what we're going to continue to try to do, protect home. So we're going to try to come out with the win.
Hamilton coming in there, they're struggling. They're not having the greatest season. How do you guys? You don't want to sleep on anyone, and everyone. We're all. You guys are all professional. But how do you approach kind of the game this weekend?
Yeah, like you said, you don't want to sleep. You don't want to sleep on nobody or take no team for granted or take them lightly or very easy. Because at the end of the day, it's still football. You still got to go out there and play. You still got to go out there and execute because that's who's going to win the game. The team that execute the most and when it matters. So that's what we're going to try to go out there and do, execute as many players as possible to come out with the win. We're not going to take them lightly at all because they still do a lot of good things too.
Finally, what do you kind of work on? What do you do when you're not playing, when bye week or when you're not kind of at practice? What are you going to go do like tonight? What do you do in your spare time?
My spare time, I listen to music every day. Every day I listen to music. I love music. Music is life. Life is music. But besides that, I go for walks. So I just be chilling on the rooftop, watch the sunset. So I like stuff like that. That's about it. Or I'll hang out with a few of the teammates, go get some to eat together. Other than that, nothing too crazy.
What's in your what's on your it's not even what's in your disc player anymore, but what's on your phone? What are you listening to?
I like a lot of R&B, old school music, something slow. Yeah, something slow. Yeah, I like that.
Because imagine, sitting on the rooftop, listening to some slow jams, watching the sunset. That's good.
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect.
Well, Alex, I appreciate it. I hope you guys go off this weekend, get a bounce back. I'll be watching, cheering on here by the American CFL team. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate all of our guests today. Greg Parks making time back in school, taking time late at night to schedule and record his piece here, talking all of the players signing to the NFL rosters. Really excited about that. And then, like I said, Milt Stegall making time, balancing all his TSN duties and family commitments and work and everything else. So really appreciate Milt and Alexander Hollins. Really appreciate Matt, everyone over at the BC Lions for getting that coordinated. Like I said, should be a good show next week if all goes well. Otherwise, we'll pivot as always and figure it out. Like and subscribe. Enjoy the CFL games this weekend. Keep an eye. Lots of news will be coming down next week following the NFL roster cut. So best of luck to all of the players signed, whether you're from the NFL, whether you're from the XFL or the USFL. Best of luck. It's going to be really tough, and it's really hard to make it, and especially coming from the spring leagues and all football and kind of all of that stuff. So well wishes from the show for all of them, and hope you guys have a great weekend. And thanks as always. See you next time.